Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of sources and pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge to make you well-informed quickly. Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating journey back to 1939. We're going to unpack a truly foundational document, Executive Order Number 217 from the Philippines. Now, this isn't just some dusty historical relic. It's actually a detailed blueprint for citizenship and ethics, designed to be taught in every single school across the nation back then. Our mission for this deep dive is, well, first to understand the crucial context behind this order. Then we'll explore each of its 16 principles in detail. And finally, consider what it really reveals about nation building and, that timeless idea of what makes a good citizen, especially for a society on the cusp of self-determination.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here, I think, is the explicit link you see between a constitutional mandate and the very practical steps taken to instill moral character and civic duty. So we'll definitely delve into the why behind this directive from President Manuel L. Quezon. And then, like you said, meticulously explore the specific values it sought to cultivate. It's clear how deeply considered this was for, well, a new nation finding its feet.
Okay, let's unpack this then. What exactly was the driving force behind Executive Order Number 217? I mean, this wasn't just some run-of-the-mill administrative memo, was it?
Oh, absolutely not. The order itself very clearly states its foundation. It's right there in Section 5 of Article 13 of the Constitution. That section provided that all schools shall aim to develop moral character, personal discipline, civic conscience, and to teach the duties of citizenship.
So it's a direct constitutional imperative, a clear directive, basically, from the highest law of the land.
Exactly. So not just a suggestion, but a constitutional requirement that schools actively foster these specific civic virtues. And, it goes on to mention the necessity for a full code of citizenship and ethics to be formulated by a representative committee. But crucially, and this is important, this executive order was issued pending the formulation of such a code, which means it was seen as an immediate, absolutely essential step to fulfill the Constitution's mandate without any delay. It really highlights the urgency they felt.
Right, the urgency to get these values instilled from day one.
Mm-hmm.
And who was steering this? Who was at the helm of this, monumental initiative?
The order was issued by Manuel L. Quezon. He was the president of the Philippines at the time, acting by virtue of his powers under the Constitution. And the document specifies it was done at the city of Manila this 19th day of August in the year of our Lord, 1939, and of the Commonwealth of the Philippines, the fourth.
1939, the fourth year of the Commonwealth.
Precisely. It was also countersigned by Jorge B. Vargas, who was secretary to the president. And it's really important to remember that context. This was a pivotal time. The Philippines was a self-governing territory under the United States, but actively transitioning towards full independence.
Right, so this wasn't happening in a vacuum.
Not at all. This executive order, therefore, it wasn't just about governance as usual. It was about actively shaping the national character, the identity of a people right on the cusp of true self-determination.
That context is incredibly important. Knowing it was issued during the Commonwealth period, just before the outbreak of World War II of the Pacific, it really makes these principles feel even more significant, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Okay, so let's turn to the heart of this order, these 16 civic and ethical principles themselves. They were drafted, it says, by a group of eminent citizens.
Mm-hmm.
And what struck me as I read these was just how incredibly broad they are. And prescriptive. They cover everything from, individual virtue to national economic policy.
Mm-hmm.
They really offer an unparalleled window into the values they prioritized for nation building back then.
They are indeed comprehensive. It reflects a very holistic approach to defining what it meant, or what they wanted it to mean, to be a Filipino citizen. The aim was clearly to cultivate a strong, cohesive national identity.
Right. Let's start with the first set. These seem to lay a kind of foundational bedrock for the individual and their relationship with the state. The very first principle is, have faith in divine providence that guides the destinies of men and nations. Starting with the spiritual principle. How does that set the tone?
Well, it immediately highlights a spiritual underpinning, doesn't it? It sets a foundational tone for everything that follows by grounding citizenship in perhaps a higher purpose. It suggests that national destiny is somehow intertwined with divine will, which, would have resonated quite deeply in a predominantly religious society like the Philippines.
Okay, and then it immediately shifts quite dramatically to the fiercely patriotic. Principle 2. Love your country, for it is the home of your people, the seat of your affections, and the source of your happiness and well-being. Its defense is your primary duty. Be ready at all times to sacrifice and die for it if necessary.
Wow. Yeah. That's a very strong statement, especially thinking about 1939 coming just before World War II really engulfed the region. This principle of ultimate sacrifice, it really speaks to a powerful nationalism that was emerging in this newly self-governing nation, a nation keenly aware of its vulnerabilities but also its aspirations.
Yeah.
It's a vision of citizenship that places collective survival and identity while arguably above all else, a vital concept for a nation looking towards full independence.
That makes sense. Following that call to ultimate sacrifice, the next principle, number 3, addresses the core of civic duty. Respect the Constitution, which is the expression of your sovereign will. The government is your government. It has been established for your safety and welfare. Obey the laws and see that they are observed by all, and that public officials comply with their duties.
This one's fascinating because, like you said, it doesn't just demand obedience to laws. It's not just follow the rules. It also actively empowers citizens. It says it's their responsibility to ensure public officials fulfill their duties.
That's a key distinction.
It really is. It creates a sort of two-way accountability, which is crucial for building trust in these nascent democratic institutions.
It does sound like a pretty sophisticated view of civic engagement for the time. And linked directly to that, the fourth principle is very practical, very down to earth. Pay your taxes willingly and promptly. Citizenship implies not only rights but also obligations.
Can't get much clearer than that, can you? It directly links citizenship to financial responsibility. Explicitly states rights come with obligations. It's really a fundamental understanding of how a modern state funds itself and how individual contributions are just vital to the collective well-being.
No free ride, essentially.
Pretty much.
And finally, in this first foundational group, we have Principle 5, safeguard the purity of suffrage and abide by the decisions of the majority.
Right. This one underscores the vital importance placed on the integrity of those democratic institutions we just mentioned. In 1939, ensuring free and fair elections, what they call the purity of suffrage, and ensuring public trust in the outcome, that was absolutely fundamental. It was about solidifying the Commonwealth's legitimacy and ultimately preparing for full independence. It's really about building a robust democratic culture right from the ground up.
Okay, so we've covered these foundational ideas: faith, patriotism, respect for law, paying taxes, democratic process. It's clear they were trying to cultivate a citizen with a strong sense of national duty and civic responsibility. Now let's pivot a bit to the more personal and ethical principles. These seem to dive into character and social interactions, starting with family ties.
Yes, these next principles really delve into the individual's character and their immediate social interactions. It shows how personal virtues were seen as absolutely integral to the national character they were trying to build.
So Principle 6, love and respect your parents. It is your duty to serve them gratefully and well.
This emphasizes those deeply ingrained family values, which are, paramount in Filipino culture even today. It highlights the importance of filial piety, respect for one's parents and elders, as a cornerstone of societal order and personal morality.
Makes sense. Moving from family, the next principle, 7, dives right into personal integrity. Value your honor as you value your life. Poverty with honor is preferable to wealth with dishonor.
That is a powerful statement, isn't it? On personal integrity, ethical conduct, prioritizing moral standing, your reputation over material wealth. It sets a very, very high bar for individual character.
It really does. And building on that, Principle 8 offers a kind of comprehensive guide to daily conduct. Be truthful and be honest in thought and in action. Be just and charitable, courteous but dignified in your dealings with your fellow men.
Yeah, these are pretty fundamental ethical guidelines for daily interactions, covering honesty, justice, charity, courtesy, dignity. It's really about cultivating harmonious and principled relationships within the community.
Then we have an interesting one, number 9, focused on lifestyle. Lead a clean and frugal life. Do not indulge in frivolity or pretense. Be simple in your dress and modest in your behavior.
This principle advocates for a simple, sort of unostentatious lifestyle, shunning superficiality, extravagance. It definitely speaks to a cultural value of modesty, and perhaps also a practical one for a developing nation trying to conserve resources.
Right, don't be flashy. Be modest. And finally, for this set of personal principles, number 10 connects back to national identity. Live up to the noble traditions of our people. Venerate the memory of our heroes. Their lives point the way to duty and honor.
This is crucial. It connects the present directly to the past. It urges citizens to draw inspiration, guidance from national heroes and established traditions. It's a deliberate act of forging that collective identity by honoring those who came before and, importantly, embodying their ideals.
It's really remarkable how these principles move from that grand national vision right down to such intimate aspects of personal conduct in daily life. It truly feels like a complete blueprint.
It does attempt to be.
Okay, next, let's consider the principles that focus on work, economic contribution, and self-reliance. These seem very practical, very necessary for a developing nation.
Absolutely. This next grouping speaks directly to the economic foundations and the individual agency needed for nation building. There's a strong emphasis on productivity and personal responsibility here.
Kicking off this group is Principle 11. Be industrious. Be not afraid or ashamed to do manual labor. Productive toil is conducive to economic security and adds to the wealth of the nation.
This one's important because it highlights the dignity of all forms of labor, specifically including manual work, and it links that directly to national economic prosperity. It's an important counter, perhaps, to any potential societal biases against certain types of work, framing all honest labor as valuable to the nation.
Good point. And continuing that theme of personal drive, number 12. Rely on your own efforts for your progress and happiness. Be not easily discouraged. Persevere in the pursuit of your legitimate ambitions.
A very strong call for individual responsibility there. Resilience, persistence in achieving one's goals. It's really about fostering self-reliance and, well, grit in the face of inevitable challenges.
Bootstraps, almost. And this sounds like a recipe for a powerful work ethic. The 13th principle reinforces that. Do your work cheerfully, thoroughly, and well. Work badly done is worse than work undone. Do not leave for tomorrow what you can do today.
Classic advice. This principle really focuses on the quality and the timeliness of work. Advocating for thoroughness, discouraging procrastination, it underlines efficiency and excellence as essentially national virtues. Very important for a burgeoning economy.
Definitely. These three principles together, industriousness, self-reliance, quality work, they paint a very clear picture of the ideal citizen they envisioned. Industrious, self-reliant. Now let's wrap up with the final three principles. These seem to expand the scope even further, encompassing community, national resources, and the very idea of citizenship itself.
That's right. These final principles broaden the lens again, moving from individual action more towards collective responsibility and the long-term sustainability of the nation as a whole.
Okay, first in this final group, number 14. Contribute to the welfare of your community and promote social justice. You do not live for yourselves and your families alone. You are part of society to which you owe definite responsibilities.
This really expands the scope of responsibility, doesn't it? Beyond just the individual, beyond just the immediate family, to include the broader community. And explicitly mentions promoting social justice. It's a clear call to active civic participation and a recognition of that interdependence within society. You're not an island.
No, exactly. And then an interesting one, number 15, clearly aimed at economic self-sufficiency. Cultivate the habit of using goods made in the Philippines. Patronize the products and trades of your countrymen.
By Filipino, essentially. This is a very clear directive towards supporting local industries, fostering national economic self-sufficiency, a really vital concept for a nation trying to assert its economic independence on the global stage.
Makes perfect sense in that context. And finally, the 16th principle brings us full circle, emphasizing stewardship and, well, the sanctity of citizenship. Use and develop our natural resources and conserve them for posterity. They are the inalienable heritage of our people. Do not traffic with your citizenship.
A powerful ending. It combines environmental stewardship, conserving resources for the future, with this very strong admonition against the commercialization or misuse of one's national identity. It treats citizenship as something sacred, a trust, not something to be bought or sold or compromised. It's a really powerful closing statement for the whole code.
What an extraordinary deep dive into these foundational principles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from spiritual faith right down to detailed work ethic, from personal honor to national resources.
Mm-hmm.
This single document offers an incredibly comprehensive vision of what it meant to be a good citizen in the Philippines in 1939. But, one might wonder, how achievable were these ideals really in practice? Was there any sort of contemporary debate or pushback against these, well, quite prescriptive principles?
That's a great question. And yes, while the intent was certainly aspirational, implementation always has its challenges. Historians do note that while the order was widely disseminated, taught in schools as intended, the true measure of its impact Well, it varied. It varied across different regions over time. Getting real buy-in meant framing this not just as rules to comply with, but as something foundational to Filipino identity itself and to future prosperity.
Especially given the diverse cultural landscape of the nation.
Exactly. It wasn't a monolithic society. So it really underscores the intense effort, the deliberate thought that went into shaping the identity and values of this nascent nation during its Commonwealth period. It remains a powerful example of how a government sought to use education quite deliberately as a primary tool for nation building.
It's truly a fascinating look at how core values were articulated and how they intended to instill them through the educational system, a very proactive approach to civic development. So, for you, our listener, maybe consider which of these principles from way back in 1939 still resonate most strongly in today's world, regardless of geography, and which ones might seem, well, entirely products of their specific time and place.
And perhaps, just as a thought exercise, what one principle would you prioritize above all others if you were tasked with drafting such a code for citizens today? Something to think about.